Good afternoon. Welcome to Promo Perspectives Live, a podcast presented by Sage, dedicated to giving promotional products, distributors, tips, tricks, and insights to help them grow their businesses. I'm Gabe Gotai, Senior Marketing Coordinator here at Sage. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the world of music, discussing band merchandise and opportunities for distributors to grow their business in that market. If you're live with me right now on Zoom, thanks so much for joining. This is being recorded, so if you want to come back to it later, it'll be released everywhere you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple, YouTube, iHeartRadio, everywhere. Go subscribe to Promo Perspectives today so you don't miss it. This episode is going to come out next week, the first Wednesday of August, and we're going to be putting out even more episodes on this topic every week for the whole month. So if you're listening to the podcast version now and you'd like to register to join us on the next live stream, head to go.sageworld.com/podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sage Academy. Sage Academy is a free monthly live online session for the Sage distributor community to come together and learn more about the latest Sage features and make sure they're getting the most out of the Sage modules they use every day. Sage Academy is where you become a Sage expert. Visit sageworld.com/resources to register for the next live session. All right, before we get started, a couple of venue rules. No moshing or stage diving in the Zoom chat, but chatting is encouraged. So share your stories as we go along, talk about your favorite band merch. To kick us off, I've got a question for you. Go ahead, drop your answer in the chat. What was the first concert that you ever attended? I have been so excited to talk about this topic on the podcast. If anybody here is a regular listener, you know that I am rarely the expert. When we talk about things like decoration methods or environmental responsibility, I always bring on thought leaders from all around the industry. I get to learn right alongside the rest of you. But today, we've hit on something that I'm both experienced in and very passionate about. And in case my long hair and general demeanor didn't give it away, I am a huge fan of live music. In my free time, I play guitar in a cover band here in Dallas. We play 90s and 2000s rock covers, which, believe it or not, are actually classic rock songs now. And beyond just that, we've recorded an album, and we sold t-shirts, stickers, and CDs. I spent a year running the marketing for a local concert venue, working closely with the bands to promote their shows, many of those promotions centering around their merch. And beyond my semi-pro and professional experience with live music, I have seen literally hundreds of bands play on all kinds of stages, from tiny living rooms to theaters to sold-out arenas. And of course, I love band merch. For many of us, it's not just about expanding our wardrobe. It's a badge of honor. It's a calling card to other fans that says, I was there. I heard those musicians in real life. I can't count how many times I've ended up having conversations with total strangers and swapping stories, all because of a shirt I was wearing or a sticker on my water bottle or a patch on my jacket. A lot of the time, the person I'm talking to, they don't even recognize the band's logo. They just thought it was a cool design and they had something nice to say about it. And I think that says a lot about the kind of artistry that goes into this particular subset of branded merch. I don't know about y'all, but if someone's going to compliment me on a shirt that I'm wearing that shirt at least once a week. So, why does this matter to you? Why should you, a respected promotional products distributor, listen to some hippie-looking guy talk for 30 minutes about his favorite bandanas? Well, the live entertainment industry is massive and growing, and at that pace, promotional products distributors have abundant opportunities to do some very profitable business. The band merch industry was $14 billion last year. The history of band merch has a lot to teach us about how to approach that market, from understanding the business side of it to the artist personalities. So today, we're going to take a look at the history, see how we got to where we are, and see where those $14 billion are coming from and where it's going. And we're also going to talk about a few ways to find the right products and how to break into the market. We're going to dive even deeper in some bonus episodes, including interviews with distributors who work in that space and have been part of some very cool programs dedicated to serving independent musicians, and another bonus episode where we're actually going to talk to some of these musicians, and give you critical insights into who your customer is, what they struggle with, and what they're looking for in a promotional products partner. You're not going to want to miss those, so go ahead and subscribe to Promo Perspectives. As like I said, we're going to be putting out a new episode in this series every Wednesday in August. Let's start with the numbers. 2024's $14 billion is up 33% since 2019, and the market is expected to reach over $16 billion by 2030. The last 5 years, the only time that there's been a dip in merch sales was in 2020, and bear with me as I say the bad word, during COVID. But while not everybody returned to office, fans flocked back to their favorite venues as soon as they were able to. Live Nation alone reported that 151 million fans attended shows last year. And if you're a big concert goer, you know that their data only accounts for the corporate venues. It doesn't include independent venues or clubs. At Venue, a different live event payment solution, reports that 22% of fans buy merch when at a concert. Those buyers are spending an average of $61 each on merch, almost double what they are spending on food and drinks. That average represents a range of buying behaviors, from those who spent only a couple of bucks on stickers to superfans who walked out with vinyl records and multiple t-shirts. Breaking it down even further, let's look at some of the stats about the merchandise itself. We'll dig deeper into some of the products that you can consider later in the show, but here's the big picture. T-shirts, hats, and pullover hoodies are, in that order, the top 3 selling items by a wide margin, with shirts accounting for over half of all band merch sales. Can you guess what color the vast majority of those t-shirts were by over half? It's black, and you probably know that if you've bought any band shirts. It's by a wide margin. The second highest is white at only 11%. Black is a color that looks good on everyone. It goes with everything. It's less likely to fade with washing. Of course, the downside is that my closet is now about 90% black t-shirts, which makes it kind of hard to vary my day-to-day style. Let's talk about genre. Popularity of music does not necessarily reflect the popularity of merch. Country music had the highest number of shows in 2024, but was among the genres with the lowest total percentage of attendees purchasing merch at only 18%. On the other hand, K-pop leads the industry in the average dollar per head, the highest average attendance, highest percentage of fans purchasing merchandise. The industry and genre stats are a great way to get some top-down perspective when understanding the artist stats is critical when doing business with them as a distributor. Did you know that an artist makes as much profit from one t-shirt as they do from 12,000 streams of one of their songs? Bands who have a concert capacity of fewer than 1,500 people can make a nightly income of $5,500 compared to an annual income of less than $400 from Spotify. Promotional products are not an option or an add-on for somebody trying to make it in music. They are necessary. More than that, they need to present various products to their audience. 41% of artists have at least 15 unique items for sale, though 61% of those sales will come from the big 3, shirts, hats, and hoodies. Hopefully, that gives you some insight into just how much business there is being done in this industry. I challenge you to look up local concerts in your area, including smaller venues. You might be surprised just how many of them there are. This is all being done at these shows. I'm going to take an opportunity to make a quick plug. Those were some stats. We love some good stats around here, and a lot of that came from a fantastic deep dive guide written by Sage's very own Betty Anderson. It's available on our website, on our resources page. Highly recommend you check that out. The link in the follow-up email to this episode will include that guide, and you can find a whole series of deep dives by going to the education resources page, and they cover topics from all different industries, all from the perspective of selling them promotional products. So if you're looking to expand your business into some other markets, that's where you're going to want to go. So, covered some stats. Later, I'm going to give you some practical examples on how to ingratiate yourself into this world. But before all that, I want to take it back to the beginning. I believe that with a fundamental understanding of the history of band merch, that's going to make you the best equipped you can be to enter the market today. So now that we've shown you where you can find the source of this presentation, let's go see what specifically is driving the numbers, the fans. Music taste can be the source of a strong sense of identity for people. People identify as a fan. I'm a fan of Dinosaur Jr. I am a fan of the Grateful Dead. I am a fan of the Pixies. Think of the world of sports, from the days of the Romans to the days of the Cowboys. Fandom has always appealed to a sense of belonging and escapism. It's core to being a human. You've heard the stories, I'm sure, of Beatles fans passing out from screaming at their concerts. Think about the Swifties. The Eras Tour was the highest grossing tour ever, bringing in over $2 billion. It dominated social media because of the power of her fans. They're a fandom that's so powerful they even infiltrated the NFL. And she is just the most recent in the world of live entertainment juggernauts whose fandoms dominated the public consciousness. Each decade has seen somebody like Swift, Adele, Beyonce, Nirvana, Michael Jackson, Pink Floyd. But all of it, at least in the mainstream American media, goes back to Elvis Presley. Much of the older generation at the time hated both the music Elvis played and what he represented. His dance moves were indecent. He was playing African-American influenced music in the Jim Crow South. But that hate only spurred on the younger generation who adored Elvis. He was the king of rock and roll. He transcended boundaries, and he made a profound impact on popular culture. Elvis's manager, Colonel Tom Parker, recognized the power of his client's image, and he capitalized on the polarization, seeing the opportunity. He made Elvis buttons for people on both sides of the fence. I hate Elvis. I love Elvis. After the initial success of those buttons, Parker made a deal with Special Products, Inc. to promote the brand even further, expanding their offerings to over 30 products, including shirts, jeans, sneakers, buckles, bandanas, flags, even Elvis Presley RCA Victrolas, little portable record players. So even back then, at the beginning of the band merch industry, variety was one of the keys to success. By the end of the 50s, Elvis was reported to have grossed over $22 million through merchandise sales. While some would argue that Elvis was the first to do many of the things in the modern world of pop music, the Beatles would come soon after to do a lot of those same things bigger and better. Record keeping was a little hazy in that point in the Beatles' history, but we do know that in 1963, their manager handed the merchandising arm over to Nick Byrne, who leased out the band's branding and likenesses to various companies for 10% cut of the profits. By 1964, factories were churning out Beatles bubblegum, musical instruments, dolls, dresses, wigs, and hairbrushes. Now, those of you really paying close attention might have noticed a conspicuous absence of a particular product. Let's take a brief detour into the history of the most popular band merch item and one of the most popular promotional products overall, the t-shirt. I know, bear with me. I like history. You've got to like it too. The t-shirt has utilitarian origins. The shirt was part of the U.S. Navy uniform during the Spanish-American War, served as a middle layer, allowing sailors to remove their dress layer for manual labor. It's easily cleaned, cheaply manufactured, and so by the end of World War II, it was common for men and boys to wear t-shirts as part of their daily dress. The July 1942 issue of Life magazine featured a man wearing a t-shirt with a graphic for the Air Corps Gunnery School. Marlon Brando was seen wearing one in 1950's A Streetcar Named Desire. And in 1960, the first rotatable multicolor garment screen printing machine was developed. While initially it was manufactured to print on bowling shirts, the t-shirt, it turns out, is ideal for screen printing. So it became a canvas, it became a billboard, and it became a protest sign. Stanley Mouse was an influential counterculture artist who designed album covers for many of the psychedelic bands living in his part of California at that time. In the mid-'60s, he started a business called the Monster Company, which used a 4-color silk screening process to create a line of t-shirts featuring these bands' art. In '66, Mouse and fellow artist Alton Kelly created a t-shirt design for a band that lived right across the street from them in San Francisco's iconic Haight-Ashbury district, the Grateful Dead. I know that there's at least one other Deadhead in the audience right now. I saw you in the chat. But if you don't know, they are one of the best examples of a band successfully utilizing merchandise. The Dead, like Elvis, can attribute a lot of their success to their role in the counterculture. The full history of how they came to become known as icons of the underground world is too long and a little inappropriate for this particular podcast, but to be short, in the middle of the 60s, they were filling rooms like the Fillmore Auditorium, where they played for free, and they encouraged their fans to record bootlegs of every show. From a business perspective, it seems a little counterintuitive to forego charging for tickets or to encourage piracy instead of recording and selling records, but whatever they lost in royalties, they gained back in profits from t-shirts, posters, and other products from which they kept all of the revenue. Instead of conforming to the established standards of the time, the Dead created a new marketplace literally. Shakedown Street is what Deadheads and other fans of that kind of jam band scene commonly call the flea market-like expanse of tents that appears in parking lots surrounding the Dead shows, Fish shows, and other similar kind of bands. And, all the other bands that would follow in those footsteps. This flea market is where fans could buy and sell, among some other things, black market band merchandise. This community of tailgating partygoers established a culture that forever associated live music with t-shirts. And of course, there was and will always be bootleg merchandise. It's also just part of the culture. The image of a concert is almost incomplete without someone in the parking lot selling a misspelled version or off-center version of the band's shirt. But, as we saw earlier, enough concert attendees purchase enough official merchandise to account for most of the performers' income. Even today, nearly 30 years after the passing of the frontman Jerry Garcia, surviving members of the Dead still tour. They just finished a residency at the Sphere in Las Vegas, which is an experience I really regret missing out on. And according to Variety, between 2015 and 2020, the Dead were still selling $70 million in merchandise annually. And merch can be a great investment for the buyer. The first Grateful Dead shirt would eventually set the record for the most expensive rock and roll memorabilia ever sold at auction, bringing in at the time over $17,000 for the one shirt. Stanley Mouse, the designer of that shirt, established, among many other things, the importance of a band's unique aesthetic. Mouse's father was an animator at Disney, no relation to Mickey, so far as I was able to find out, who worked on projects like Snow White. And I would argue that some bands have developed branding that's just as strong as the House of Mouse. Designed by Jean Pache in 1971 for the cover of the Rolling Stones album Sticky Fingers, the tongue and lips logo would become the center of the Rolling Stones branding for the next 50 plus years. To this day, you can find it on t-shirts and posters all around the world. In 2003, VH1 named it the best album cover ever, not just because of its artistic merit, but because of how widespread the image has become in pop culture. According to Adweek, Pache received only £50 sterling for that design. And for those of you that feel that's an injustice, no, he got a £200 bonus, so definitely worth it, right? Fast forward to the 70s, and the world is introduced to the iconic KISS logo. Like many great works of art, there's been some some debate over the origins of the design, but it's been settled that founding member Ace Frehley was the original designer. And undeniably, that logo has become as essential to the band's branding as the KISS makeup and the Gene Simmons tongue. Their official fan club, the KISS Army, was reported to have at its peak earned $5,000 daily from memberships, which included licensed merchandise featuring that logo. And that's just from their fan club. The 90s was another decade of significant growth for the music merch industry due to a handful of factors, including the rise of grunge, the popularity of boy and girl bands, and the growing importance of the artist's branding. The smiley face logo, now synonymous with Nirvana, was originally just part of a poster handmade for a private album release party, but after their explosion with the record Nevermind, the image became a core part of American music. Another major milestone in the 90s was, again, the popularity of boy bands and girl groups. Bands like Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and the Spice Girls had millions of fans all around the world. And these fans were eager to buy merchandise from their favorite artists. Let's do a little boys against girls here. Backstreet Boys' self-titled debut album in 1996 generated over $500 million in merchandise sales. The Spice Girls' debut album that same year generated over $1 billion. The technological advances of the 90s and 2000s would accelerate the growth of band merch. The development of new technologies like digital printing and sublimation printing made producing high-quality merchandise more efficient and cost-effective than ever. But most importantly, the rise of the internet made it easier for fans to purchase merchandise from their favorite artists. Today, countless companies specialize in helping bands set up online merchandise sales. The launch of iTunes in 2000, it made it even easier for fans to purchase and download music, which led to a decline in physical music sales and created new opportunities for merch to pick up that slack in a band's living. And the rise of digital streaming platforms like Spotify and Pandora only compounded that trend. Then there was the birth and growth of social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter, Instagram. Social media made it easier for artists to connect with their fans and promote their merchandise. And then the rising popularity of online retailers like Amazon and eBay made purchasing merchandise from anywhere in the world easier for fans than it had ever been. Today, merch can come in all shapes and sizes, and it's not always talking about taking memorabilia away from the show. Sometimes it's about merging the merch with the concert experience. So let's look at some examples in case you want to break into this market and present some more unique offerings. Light sticks are extremely popular, particularly among K-pop fans. They light up the stadiums just like lighters used to do in the 80s and 90s. Speaking of wearables, band merch has expanded beyond the typical t-shirt and hoodies. Bands like Metallica have partnered with companies like Vans, so you can find shoes, backpacks, jewelry, and other accessories on websites like Hot Topic. Action figures have found a place too. Toy brand Super 7 produces a line of action figures for bands and artists like the Notorious B.I.G., the Beastie Boys, and Devo. And Funko has a line of their rock pops that span music genres from Tupac to Willie Nelson to Eddie to Iron Maiden. Food and drinks aren't off the table either. Snoop Dogg has the Cali Red, Cali Rose, and Cali Blanc wines from the brand 19 Crimes. The snack brand Rap Snacks has chips, popcorn, lemonade, and noodles featuring various rappers. Some artists have been so popular for so long that their merch had to evolve with their image. Snoop Dogg, for example, kind of skewed away from his gangster rap persona, and he's been releasing albums of original children's songs, and he published a cookbook that I know for a fact at least 2 Sage employees own. Kitting is another huge trend, not just in the promo industry, but it's something that the music industry has been taking advantage of for several years. You all know this, but kitting is the strategic packaging of multiple promotional products that fit one event or theme. So, for example, those canvas bags filled with promo products that you get when you check in at a trade show. Or, anytime you purchase VIP tickets for a concert, you'll usually get a free clear tote bag filled with stickers, shirts, hats, flags, and more. Not to mention, you'll get a special printed lanyard and laminate showing off your VIP status and allowing you entry into the coveted restricted areas like the pit or backstage. You could also offer, to fit unique and useful promo products into these kits. Custom umbrellas are great for outdoor shows, many of which are rain or shine. And don't get me wrong, jamming out to your favorite band while getting drenched on the lawn at Dos Equis Pavilion at Fair Park in Dallas can be a great memory. You could also make it a dry memory. Or you could even offer chargeable, portable hand fans because sometimes the heat's an even bigger problem than the rain, especially at concerts here in the South. All right, we've talked stats, we've talked history, and we've talked product mix, but we haven't really talked about how. How exactly, you might be wondering, am I supposed to break into this market for myself? Beyonce and Taylor Swift probably haven't been returning your calls, but don't take it personally. Many larger artists are completely unconnected to the logistics of their merchandise that's handled entirely by their labels and management. And often the relationship between those labels and management and their preferred suppliers, distributors, and decorators are pretty firmly entrenched. It's not to say there aren't ways to break into the market in that space, but my first piece of advice is going to be to pick your targets a little more carefully. You can't just throw darts at a list of bands and hope for the best. Just like with any other client, you need to understand their needs, their stage of growth, and their audience. For distributors, particularly those who are an audience member here, the sweet spot's probably going to lie with independent artists and local bands and mid-tier touring acts. Why? Because they don't often have that massive infrastructure of a label behind them handling their merch. They're usually managing it themselves or with a very small team, and they are looking for reliable partners who understand their world. So how do you find them? Scout local venues. Hit up local concert halls, clubs, and even coffee shops that host live music. Look at their calendars. Who's playing regularly? Who's drawing a crowd? These are your potential clients, and don't just look at the headliners. Pay attention to the opening acts. They're often even hungrier for good merch support. Make sure you're checking out social media and the streaming platforms. Artists, especially independent ones, live on platforms like Bandcamp, Instagram, TikTok, and Spotify. Look for artists with an active online presence who are self-promoting and who have a dedicated fan base. If they're talking about their music, they're probably thinking about their merch. Go to music festivals, big and small. massive multi-day events all the way down to small local gatherings. These are a gold mine. You're going to see a huge variety of artists. You can observe what kind of merch they're selling or not selling, and get a feel for the different genres and their kind of associated fan bases. Network with other music industry professionals. This could be the sound engineers, the venue managers, local promoters, or even other small businesses that cater to musicians like recording studios or instrument, purchase and repair shops. These connections can lead to that invaluable referral business. And look for artists that have a strong visual identity. Bands that already have cool logos, album art, or a distinct aesthetic are really good candidates because they clearly understand the importance of visuals, which translates directly to merch. This advice isn't just about identifying leads, it's about authentically embedding yourself into that culture. Musicians, and I speak from experience, highly value human connection and authentic partnerships. It is a hard life trying to make your living off of music. You creatively exhaust your mind to bring your art into this world. You bleed and sweat loading your gear in and out of venues every single weekend. And in between all of that, you have to manage your business and marketing like it's your full-time job just to compete in the modern space. While they're dealing with all of this, they're constantly bombarded with marketing and sales messages from people they've never met before. Hey, pay me, I'll make your songs popular. Pay me, I'll help you sell tickets. Early in a musician's career, they're likely to have a bad experience with someone like this. In their naivety, exhaustion, and desperation, they pay someone for services that just don't deliver, and they become cynical. That cynicism is lower when the people offering them services come from within their own community. That guy that brings his DSLR camera to the open mic night in Deep Ellum every week, they're going to pay him for photography services at the next gig. That sound guy who always makes their show sound perfect, they're going to pay him to mix their next private event. Once you've built these connections and you're ready to start talking, merch with your new friends, it's important to understand their pain points. What do bands struggle with when it comes to merch? Upfront costs. Many small bands operate on razor-thin margins. Can you offer them low minimums, work on a consignment model, or maybe help them with pre-order campaigns? They struggle with inventory management. They're often touring in a van. They don't have a warehouse space. Can you offer fulfillment services or maybe guide them and make suggestions for compact, easy to transport items? Design and production. Artists are focused on their music. They might need your help translating their vision into a printable design. Highlight your in-house design capabilities or your network of trusted designers. Speed and reliability. When a tour is announced or an album is dropping, they need merch now. Emphasize your quick turnaround times and reliable delivery. The specifics are all going to vary based on the artist, which goes back to building that authentic connection. Really get to know these people. I know that sounds like a lot of work, but so is being a professional musician. And again, there are billions of dollars at stake in this market. Do you think that it might be helpful to hear more? Maybe from some distributors actively working in the market, or maybe from some of these artists themselves? Well, boy, do I have good news for you. We have exactly that coming in the next 3 episodes of Promo Perspectives. We are going to hear from Seven Sins Printing and Embroidery in Fort Worth and Merch Media in San Antonio, and hear about how they broke into this market, how they've been successful in it, and some of the quirks and special opportunities available when working with musicians. We're also going to have a whole episode, it might end up being 2, dedicated to the artist perspective. I have 4 different DFW-based musicians sit down and tell me all about what merch means to them, culturally, as a marketing tool, and as a primary driver of their income. These people are your potential customers, so you're not going to want to miss out on that. So subscribe to Promo Perspectives on YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. And visit go.sageworld.com/podcast to join me on the next live stream on August 27th, where we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about AI in promo. So thanks for joining me. We'll see you on the next one, and have a great afternoon.